Hello and welcome to this session. My name is Frank from Musto Wine Grape. We're going to be going over cleaning and sanitizing today. It might sound basic to you, but it's critical to protect your equipment and your wine from spoilage. So we're going to go over two things today. One is cleaning, and that's totally different than sanitizing. So there's a few products out there that you could use. This one's called Be Bright. There's One Step. There's soda ash. There's several products you can use. I tend to use Be Bright at home. And the rule of thumb on Be Bright is very simple. It's 1 tablespoon per gallon. So notice I have, and I do this for a reason, I have 1 pail labeled sulfite and 1 labeled Be Bright. So if anyone's helping me, we know what we have. I'm going to take a tablespoon of Be Bright, put it in the Be Bright container. We're going to fill that with a gallon of water. I like to use warm water for that. We're going to stir it as we do this. We are using Be Bright to clean our product. We're going to use sulfite for a different reason. So we have residue on our equipment, on our pails, on our hoses, and we're going to use some Be Bright to get rid of that and clean it. So we're going to go through a little process I'll show you on how to clean things properly. All right, so my Be Bright is all mixed up. Be Bright is used just as one step, one time. So if I mix a batch up, I'm going to throw it away today when I'm done. However, when we get to sulfite, we can use it over and over again, and we store that. So I'm going to put some sulfite in a 1 gallon container. And the rule for sulfite is 2.5 tablespoons. Now, when I buy my sulfite, I put it in a little Tupperware container, so it's a little bit easier to store it, and I don't like to have an open and closed bag. We use 2.5 tablespoons. You would never put this in your wine, but we do 2.5 tablespoons because we are making a sanitizing agent, all right? This is not cleaning. And by the way, be real careful with sulfite because it's got a vicious nose on it. And I kind of say it's like ammonia, but it will take your breath away. So even as I fill this, I have to be a little careful. So I'm going to put a little bit in and give it a stir. Should you use gloves when you do this? Yes. I tend to get a little lazy because I'm so busy, and even at a winery, I don't wear gloves. So I do come home with dry, itchy hands. It doesn't hurt as much as dries your skin out. So I'm going to fill this jug up, and this is going to be my sulfite solution. So whatever you want to call it, some people call it meta, some people call it potassium metabisulfite. Label the jug, keep it capped. This can last 2 to 3 months easily. And it's not the money, it's the fact that, you know, why throw it away if you don't have to? But this will last. Now the other thing I do is I take a spray bottle, label it SO2, I put a funnel inside, and I fill it with the sulfite. So what I'm going to show you how I do that, but I could end up just spraying my equipment and getting a mist in there, which is much better than trying to wipe it at times. So we have everything mixed. What we're going to do next is we're going to learn how to clean a pail, how to clean a tank, a stainless steel tank, how to clean a carboy, and how to clean a pump with the hoses. So remember, the Be Bright used for cleaning, that's to get the heavy residue off. Let's say after you're done with your fermentation, you have your big red fermentation pail. It's got a lot of dried grape in it. It's got seeds in it. It's dirty. Give it a rinse first with a hose, and then go in there with some Be Bright, and it literally just melts off any residue. You almost get like a purple water when you're done. That's strictly used for cleaning. Then when I'm done, I'll spray it with sulfite. Sulfite's used basically to kill any bacteria. Now we put sulfite in our wine, but at a much smaller level. I put 2.5 tablespoons in this gallon. If we were going to add sulfite to our wine to protect it, a 5-gallon carboy would only take 1/4 teaspoon. That's like your small fingernail, very small amount. So be real careful. We put a lot in here, but that's to sanitize. All right, we never sterilize wine equipment. That's hospital level. So you really shouldn't be using that term. We're just sanitizing everything. So I'm going to show you how to wash a 6-gallon pail. When you buy any type of juice from Musto Wine Grape, you should keep your pails. I use them all the time. Keep your lids too. I use pails when I'm transferring wine. I use it for a lot of different things. But whether I'm cleaning this pail or a fermentation pail, it's the same procedure. So the first thing we're going to do, and I don't have grape in here, but the first thing I would do with this is just try to rinse it. So I would rinse this pail to get most of the droppage out. Once I get it fairly clean, I go in with a rag into some Be Bright. And watch out, Be Bright is slippery, by the way. When you get it on your hands, be real careful when you're carrying carboys and so forth, because right now my hands are slippery like soap. So be aware of Be Bright. Sulfite doesn't do that to you. So I'm going to wipe this entire pail down on the inside, get everything wiped down, and you'll see that if there's grape in here, you'll see like a light purple residue dropping out, and you're like, where did that come from? The Be Bright's cleaning that pail. Then we give it a rinse, and you can do this outside with your hoses too. I do that with my big red fermentation tubs. But when I'm in here, I'm fine doing this. In fact, we're going to wash a tank in here in a bit too. I give it a good rinse. I make sure everything's out of it. I drain it. It's clean. Now we need to sanitize it. I'm going to take my SO2 spray and just spray on the inside. And I'm going to go take this outside in another area, and I'm going to just let it stay upside down to dry and drain. When it's all done, I put it away. However, the next time I take this pail out to use it, I'm going to give it one more shot of sulfite and go to town. So you don't have to clean when you're ready to use it. If you do it properly and you clean when you're done with the procedure and you sanitize it, when you take it out, you just spray it. That goes for everything I'm talking about today. Okay, so for everyone out there that uses carboys, we're going to learn how to wash a carboy. So whether this had, and this happens to be a 3-gallon, whether we had white, red, port, whatever we have, we need to clean this when we're done. So let's say we just racked some wine out of here. The first thing I would do, once again, is I would rinse it out quickly. So hopefully you have a good sink in your basement where you can access and wash things out. So I'm going to take this guy, block it, give it a little shake, and get most of the residue out. So that's the first procedure, right, is we rinse. Now we're going to put some Be Bright in here. So I'm going to take my funnel. I'm going to pour some Be Bright in here. There's no specific amount. We're going to put the Be Bright in. We're going to shake that up. And this is where you'll see a lot of residue getting knocked off the sides of that carboy. We're going to drain out the Be Bright. And now we have to rinse it. So I normally like to rinse this guy 2 to 3 times. I mean, it's clean right now, but I want to get all that Be Bright out too. Give it a little bit of water. Give it a rinse. Now my hands are a little slippery from the Be Bright that I just used. I could feel it. I don't want to drop a carboy, so I'm going to wipe my hands clean. I'll wipe the neck off. Let's fill it a second time with some water. We're going to give it one more rinse. Try to rotate this thing. Hang on to it real tight. Drain it. So now we've rinsed it. Now we need to sanitize it. So we're going to take that. I'm going to rinse my funnel that had Be Bright in it. I'm going to put that in here. We're going to take some sulfite that we mixed up previously. I'm going to pour a little bit of sulfite in here. And I won't save that sulfite. That sulfite, I won't pour that back into that 1-gallon pail. You don't need a lot. Look at, I'm just kind of wetting the inside. Now, sulfite, you'll know when your sulfite's good because you could smell it. You get your nose close enough, it will take your breath away. And that kind of tells you when it's good or bad. So now this guy's all done and it's sanitized. And if you buy some of these carboy dryers, you put that down, you set it on top, and you let it dry until maybe it takes a week. I don't really care. I'll let it dry. And I have a bunch of those that I let my carboys sit on. But if you want to know if your SO2 is still good, because I don't put a date on this, don't put your nose in there. You'll take your breath away. Just give it a little whiff and you'll smell it. It smells very potent and it's very dangerous. Please keep it away from people. Keep it labeled. Don't let anyone touch it. So between the SO2 and the SO2 in the spray bottle, I've got all I need. So we're going to move on now. We're going to wash the stainless steel tank next. Okay, it's time to wash the tank, and I'm not going to kid you. These are one of my favorites. I am a big believer in stainless steel tanks. We'll talk about that in the storage equipment videos that we have. But when you're making a decent amount of wine, so if you're doing 5 to 10 gallons, you can stick with your carboys. When you start doing more than that, now you're handling 4 carboys where you can fit this all in this one tank. So there's different size tanks, which we're going to talk about when we talk about equipment. But I'm very partial to tanks because I like to make 25 gallons of anything at a time minimum, and that's what this will hold. This is a 100-liter tank. And there's so many good benefits to it that we'll talk about later on. But right now, we're going to learn how to clean this tank. So this just got done. I've taken wine out of it. I took the cover off. I take the air trap off, and there's 2 types of air traps we'll talk about later on with equipment. We have the 3-piece and we have the bubbler air trap. So with this bubbler air trap, we're going to give it a rinse. And these are great air traps, but they're really hard to clean. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is not cleaning them as much as getting them dry. So you give this a rinse, you let it dry, but it's a little tricky to get them totally dry. So beware. Anywhere there's a chance for bacteria, it can happen. So let's not get our air traps infected too. So we're gonna clean our lid first. So with any stainless steel tank, you have your pump, you have your balloon, and you have different types of air traps they give you. And we're gonna try to talk you into using the rubber bung like this. So I have to take this off. So there's a little screw on the clamp. I'm gonna loosen that up. Pull it back and tighten it so I don't lose it. Now I'm going to pull this off. Be careful when you pull off anything like this. These stainless covers are sharp and you can cut yourself pretty good on them. So I pulled it back. Now notice it has ridges on it, and that's because it was sitting on top of a nozzle. I like to take that when I'm done because I like to be ready when I'm ready to use equipment. So while I'm cleaning up, I'm going to cut that little piece off. Throw that out. So now this pump's ready to be put away. So I'm all done with that pump. Now I need to take my balloon off. And when we talk about equipment, I like to use this upgraded balloon versus the balloon that comes with the tank. But we'll talk about that another time. So this particular balloon has a nut on it. So I'll tip it up this way. So this is great because this has a nut that really locks us in place. I highly recommend these balloons. Even wineries I work with have converted over to this big heavy balloon. I'll show it to you when I take it off. So I'm going to take the nut, put it back on. Just a little bit about this balloon. Look at it, it's like a tire tube, very, very solid compared to the cheap. This one is seamless. There's no seam on it. The balloons you get with the tank, that you can get air getting in, and that's where you'll oxidize your wine. And then that's where people get upset with tanks. Little do they know it's not the tank, it's the balloon that's doing it. So this is dirty right now. So what I'm going to do with this, I'll do it up here for you. I'm going to block the nozzle. I'm going to dip this in. I've got this in Be Bright now. Make sure it gets clean. They don't come completely clean because they get stained by the wine, but this is clean. I'm going to give it a rinse in the sink. And I'm going to hang it upside down like this. I normally do it outside in my basement. I'll leave it there for now. Now we're going to clean the cover, which is very easy to do. So we're going to take the cover. I'm going to just put it in the sink here, so bear with me. I'm going to take some of my Be Bright on a rag. It's the first time I'm using a rag on the tank. I clean everything on this, especially the rim where the balloon was. Never put your tanks away with the balloon on because you will have wine in there and it will get really nasty. You're going to have a lot of bacteria and spoilage. So I believe in taking this cover apart. Now I'm going to give this cover a rinse. Not much to it. It's kind of like washing a cooking pot. So this guy's all done. Again, I would normally put it outside. I'll drop it here for now. This is clean. Now, notice that I'm not spraying anything with sulfite. We don't spray sulfite on any of our stainless steel. It will cause it to pit and corrode. We do spray it and place it in our carboys, in our hoses, in our pails. Do not put it on any of your stainless steel. One little caveat to that is the next time I take this out and use it, I'll give it one shot with sulfite before I put the wine in it, just to sanitize it quickly. I'm putting this away as is. Do not put it away with sulfite, but you can spray it next time like anything else we use. So this guy has got a spigot on it. I normally don't take the spigot off. I'm going to get inside this tank, and I'm going to kind of put this one down on the ground so I can reach in there. And this is 100 liter. I have 250 liters. They're a little bit harder to handle. I do them all in my sink. So I'm going to get in here. I'm going to wash the inside, all around the outside. Make sure you get down near the spigot. I'm going to tip it up. I'm just going to rinse it out with hot water. I let it all drain into the sink. Now what I'm going to do is let some water drain into the tank. I'll show you why I'm doing that. Because I don't like to take the spigot off, I'm going to run water through the spigot. So I'm going to tip this up. You see the spigot right there. Let me try to do it over here for you. I'll tip it. So all I'm trying to do is get any wine out of there. Then once I'm done, I drain the water off. I check the outside for any type of wine stains. I wipe it down and I'm done. So I know it takes less time to clean this than it would have 4 or 5 carboys. So when you get to that point, think about going to tanks because they're so much easier to clean. Next step we're going to go through is we're going to do a pump. We're going to learn how to clean all of our hoses and our pumps. Okay, so now we're ready to clean out our pump, our Bombino, our transfer pump, whatever we're using. I happen to have the Bombino out right now. For those of you that have a Bombino, there'll be a video on that. But the Bombino is not only a filter, it can be used as a transfer pump. Again, I don't believe in racking by the old sucking on the hose to drain it in. Use your pump to do that. And if you don't have a pump, you can just, if you don't want the filter, you can get a regular pump for your transfer. It's much easier. So we just got done running wine through here, whether we use it as a transfer pump or a filter. But what I'm going to do now is I have a pail of Be Bright. Now, if there's a lot of wine left in this line, you're more than welcome to run water through it first. But we're going to do Be Bright, and it's going to flush it out. So I'm by myself. Use clamps whenever possible because sometimes you need an extra pair of hands. If you don't have them, I just clamp my line up to the sink. I've got this input line. So this is the input line, and this is the exit line that's going to go off into the sink. I am going to flush this line out with Be Bright. So I'm going to turn this pump on. It's going to come through the pump, and it's going to start running through. So I like to run, a pump like this, I like to run 1 to 2 gallons of Be Bright through here. And a little trick is if you're cleaning some other things, as it's running through, flush your tank with it. Put it in your carboys. Don't waste the Be Bright. So rather than just going down the drain with it, I would be filling some of my equipment with it. So we're almost done with this. All right, so I'm done with that. Even though I'm not done pumping through, I don't care. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to give this a little rinse and put some water in it. So I'm going to rinse some of that Be Bright out. We're going to fill this up with some cold water. Here's why I wouldn't use hot water, because the hot water will make your tubes soft and they'll start to bend on you. And you want this water just to flow through. So we're just about, I'll have enough water. I like to, don't be afraid to flush it with enough water to get all the bee bright out. So you'll see the hoses are clean right now, but what we want to do is get that bee bright out of there. And if bee bright got into your wine, it's not going to kill you, but we don't want any in there anyway. So I've got enough water in here. I'm going to put this pail back for you to see. And we're going to just run the same procedure. And this time we're running water through that's going to flush everything out. So like I said, you can't really pump enough water through here. We'll be talking about how to use the Bombino as a filter too. But don't be afraid to use it as a transfer pump. Now, same procedure as everything else we've done today. We rinse, we bee bright, we rinse, we sulfite. We've got to sulfite this too. So we're just about done over here. So I'm going to get all this water out. Just about done. I'm going to shut this off. I had a little bit of water left in there I'll get rid of. And this is how I sulfite. Remember the gallon jug we put together before? We're going to take that gallon jug, we're going to put it down. We're going to put this hose in here. We're going to take this hose, put it in here. And we're going to turn the pump on. And because everything's clean, I'm not afraid of reusing and recycling this SO2. So we're basically just flushing our lines out with SO2 right now. So we are sanitizing the inside of these lines. Now, when I'm done, I'm going to hang these hoses up, and I'm going to leave the SO2 in there. It doesn't hurt. But remember, the next time you take it out, you're going to have a lot of cloudiness in that hose. That's dried SO2. There's nothing to worry about. Because what are we going to do before we use this next time? Just run sulfite through it again to sanitize it. If I use this 2 hours from now, I would probably run SO2 through it one more time, just to make sure. So when you have enough of this done, I'm going to pull the inlet hose out. Let everything drain. Now I'm just blowing air. I'm going to shut this off. So again, it's nice to have a helper here, but I could do this myself. So I'm going to take this out of the SO2. Get that off the table. And I'm going to take off this end. These are clamped on. So I'm going to loosen my clamp. I want to show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to loosen my clamp. I like to move my clamps up and just pinch them again so I don't lose them. I'm going to take off one hose at a time, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to drain the SO2 out. This end of the hose that was in my wine, I'm going to wash it with hot water. I'm going to give it a hot water rinse, and then I'm going to use my spray bottle and spray with SO2. I'm okay with this just the way it is. I will hang this up out in my area. I'll try to leave it over here for now, but I will leave that to dry. I'm going to take the other end off, but I want to show you something that I'm using over here. Tightening my clamp up, pulling this off. This is a bigger hose, and by the way, just look at the setup I have here. I have a racking cane on the input side. There's nothing worse than having a hose flexing all inside. So I have a permanent racking cane, and on all of my pumps, I have this little micro filter up front. So we're going to talk about this with the Bombino, but I want you to see this. This is a great thing to put on. So I have one on every one of my transfer pump hoses. This comes off. There's a screen on the inside that catches any heavy debris. And the point is, if you have any type of wood, oak powder or wood chips coming through, if they get into this pump on the diaphragm, it's going to clog your pump. You're going to have to take it apart and clean it. So I basically just give this guy a little rinse. And usually I let these two pieces sit out for the night. But look at this. It just goes right back inside, screws right back on, and this stays with my unit. So I'm going to do the same thing with this hose. Even though it's a little bigger, I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to take the end that was seeing the wine, which is the racking cane. I'm going to give it a rinse in here. I'm going to give it an SO2 spray. And I'm going to hang this up. And last but not least, and I don't have room to hang it, I'll bring it outside in a bit. I'm going to take my pump and I'm going to kind of tip this pump to get the water out of it. And I'll turn this fitting down. Then what I'll do is just wipe everything down here. Everything's clean. I unplug my pump, I put it away. So these hoses are cleaned and sanitized, ready for the next use. And all we're going to do next time we hook them up, run some SO2 just like we did through that jug, and we're ready to go. So I hope you learned a lot about cleaning and sanitizing. It's key to making good wine.